Hello guys, welcome back to the second tutorial in our introduction to TypeScript series. So in this tutorial, we're going to go over the different types that we have in TypeScript, because TypeScript is all about being TypeScript, right? Being type strict. So we're going to just go ahead and jump into the different types that we have in TypeScript. So in TypeScript, there are mainly three primitive types. These are basically the primitive types that we have in JavaScript as well. So these are basically strings, numbers, and booleans. Okay, so these are the primitive types that we have in JavaScript. Okay, so in if it comes to TypeScript, there are different other types that we have. So we have types of arrays, booleans, tuples, undefined, numbers, strings, objects, any, and none, never, void. So these are not in JavaScript, right? So they are TypeScript specific. So you can also go into the TypeScript official documentation and read more about the different types that TypeScript provides you that you can work with. So you can see the primitive ones, and you can scroll down and read more about the different types in in TypeScript. Okay, so these are the primitive ones, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and show you in this tutorial. Okay, so let's jump into it. So I'm going to go in here into my index.txt file, and in there I can go ahead and simply create a variable. So I can just create a variable as, I'm just say const, and let me say var name, the name of the variable, right? Let me just say var name. I'm going to use convocation right here, and I'm going to be var name. I can say colon, and then specify the type that you want this to be. So what data type is going to be? So let me just say number, right? So if I say number, I can say equal to, and I can go ahead and specify a string in here. So let me just say a string. So this is going to give me an error. So if I go ahead, scroll right, and say type string is not assignable to type number, because it's a number, right? The type is number, so it can't take in a store in a string. So if I change this to before, that error should be gone. So if I change it to before, now that error is gone. So you can see the advantage of TypeScript right off the bat. So you can see now you can now have number specific types, and also can have string specific types. So if you want this to be string specific, then you can just go ahead and say string, right? And then this is going to change. You can convert this into a form of integer, right? Or 40, let's say 40, or whatever you want to store in there. So that's basically how you can do that. So that's basically, just go back to a number. So that's how you can have a number, and you can also go ahead and have const, like in this say msg, which is a message, and this is going to be of type string, and you can say it's going to be equals to, let's say hello world, hello world, hello world. Let me say this is from TypeScript, just like that. So once I have that in place, I can go ahead and close off this and save that code. So I can go down and say console.log, and then simply say var name, just like that. And I can so console.log, and you can go ahead and say msg. So right, I have that right there. So good. So as you can see, all that information is there. So basically a variable, it stores number of type number, and it's just simply having number in there. So if you have number a type, you can store any other data type instead of number. If you have string type, you can store any other data type instead of string, right? And you have seen that already. So if I go in here, you can see now hello and hello world from TypeScript also have 4 printed. Yeah, it's good. So now everything is working as it should. Again, make sure that your development server is right. Your server is running in watch mode, as we did in the previous tutorial. So if I close this, I can just run the command to make sure that my server is my TypeScript server, TypeScript compiler is running in watch mode. Okay, so if you're not running in watch mode, then that won't work. Okay, so make sure keep it running in watch mode. Okay, so once we have that out of the way, now let's move the other different types that we have. We have looked at the common ones, which are basically numbers, strings. You also have boolean, so you can just go ahead and say boolean as well. So you can say const is going to be a bool value, and you can say boolean, and you can assign it a true or a false, right? So basically as a true, and then you can also assign it a false if you want to. That's basically how we can work with numbers. So that's basically it. So for example, you are just defining this a number in a string like this, right? So like it's really tedious than having to write that this is a number and then saying equals to a number. So should TypeScript not automatically be able to pick it up that this is of type number? Why should I have to tell it's number? And yes, TypeScript can do that. So you can also write something like this, and that will still work. That is going to work perfectly. So let me just give it like this, yeah, and then also get rid of this. So that's basically, that will also still work perfectly. So this is going to be treated as a number, and this is going to be treated as a boolean. And how does this work? And this is called inferencing in TypeScript. So basically, when the TypeScript compiler looks at this, it knows that this is a number. So this is going to be obviously a type of number, basically. So this is a boolean, because this is true. So this TypeScript knows, okay, this is going to be of boolean. So if let me just go down here and say bool equals to, let's say, string, it's just going to work. Hello. let's see how if that's going to work. It says cannot assign to bool because it is a constant, right? It is a constant. Let's change it to let, and let's see what the error now says. It says string is not assignable to type boolean because already in TypeScript already have the assumption that this bool, this variable called bool, is of type boolean, right? So boolean cannot simply change into strings, right? In Python you can do that. You can have a variable that is basically a number, and then later on change it into something else in TypeScript. And also you can do that in plain vanilla JavaScript. So again, if you look in the JavaScript file, you see that works perfectly in JavaScript. Whenever it's compiled, this is compiled to JavaScript, it works perfectly. But in TypeScript, that gives you an error. So basically TypeScript is for development, a development tool that helps you get a lot of all these errors. Well, that's called type inferencing. Okay, so now just by assigning this, TypeScript already knows this is a boolean. So if you move down there and start assigning other data types, TypeScript is gonna warn you of it. So that's one of the powerful advantages of TypeScript, right? Unlike JavaScript, where you can just do anything as you please or want, it's not like that in TypeScript. So good. So once we have that done, that's called type inferencing, and you see how type inferencing work. So there are different other types that we have in TypeScript. And one of the types is also called any. So let me just change this back to constant. And the any type, let's say I have let's say I'm creating a variable, right? Let's say this variable is let me just say let let's say xyz is equals to, right? And for example, I don't know what I'm going to assign to this variable later on. Maybe I'm going to expect a value from somewhere, and I don't know what data type this value is going to be. So I can just go ahead and simply say any. Just say any, just like that. So TypeScript is going to treat xyz as any. So what that simply does is that TypeScript turns off the type check whenever I use any. So you should avoid using any at all costs. So you can simply say xyz is equals to bool. That works, and say xyz xyz is going to be equals to true, right? So you can see this is basically just like plain vanilla JavaScript, because we say this is going to be any, means it can be any data type. It can be boolean, strings, it doesn't really matter. It can be any data type, right? So this, some cases, there are some use cases for it, but it's just like writing plain vanilla JavaScript. So you should avoid using any type at all costs. Okay, so there's any, there's also void and other stuff. So let's take a look at the documentation. It explains to you reasons why you shouldn't be using the any. So if I scroll down here, you can see it's any. This is how any types, it has the any type, and basically it turns off, turns off the error checking. Basically that's what any does. So any usually do not write I don't want to write a long type just to convince the TypeScript that a particular line of code is correct. So basically what's that's that. So you're getting some data and you don't know what data it is. You just want to tell TypeScript, okay, you know what, just make turn off the type checking for this. You can use any. But this is really wrong, because it breaks down the whole point of having TypeScript, which is just being type strict, right? So that's basically it. So usually want to avoid this. That's what even the documentation says, though, because any is not type checked. Basically, this is not type checked, and the whole point of TypeScript is for type checking. So if you're using TypeScript and you're not doing any type checking, then you might as well go back and write JavaScript, right? There's no point of you writing TypeScript. So you can also use the no explicit flag to flag any implicit uses of any, okay, in your code to lead to as an error. So basically, by all advice, just avoid using any. Okay, any is bad. So you see some code base having any. Yeah, sometimes you have no choice but to use any, but just avoid it if possible, because it's just equivalent that you go back and write JavaScript and even stop TypeScript altogether, because there's no point of it, right? So that's basically the different types that we have. And as we go to the video, I'll show the different types. We have other types such as, let's say, cons. Let's say name. You can have never, it's another type, right? And you can also have never, and you can also have never. Then simply you can also have void. Okay, so I'll show you how to use all this later on as we go throughout the whole series. Okay, so don't worry about all this. I'll show you how to use all that. Okay, so you can see this error that you have here. Cannot declare a variable namespace. Name was also declared somewhere. So you can just simply go down here saying export, just like this, and then simply pass in just like this an empty object. That should get rid of that error. So cons, you can say never, uh, never, never, and then say equals to something. So let me see where we're getting that error. So let me just say string, and then say hello. Yeah, so that error should be gone. So you can also use void, We also have void type. Okay, we'll see the use case of all this. We also have never, and we'll see the use case of all this. So don't worry about all this for now. We'll come back and see the use case of all this. Okay. So we'll come back and see the use case of all this. So in case you're having some error saying that a variable has already been declared, what you can simply do is just say export, and that will get rid of all that error. So what export does, don't really worry about that. We'll explain as we go through the video, the series. Okay, so that's basically how the different types that we have. There are more types to this. We have array types and all that, and we'll go through them as we go along. So these are just an introduction to type inferencing, the different types and all that. So you can see here, you can go ahead and specify the type directly if you want, or you can leave it to TypeScript to specify it for you, which is called type inferencing. Okay, so yeah, that's all for this video. If you guys have any questions, I'll be glad to help you guys. Let's leave it in the comment section below. I'll do my best to get back to you. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. In the next video, we're going to go over functions in TypeScript. We're going to cover functions and how functions work in TypeScript, and then from there we'll go on to other concepts in TypeScript. So guys, thanks for watching. Again, share these videos with anyone who you think might find it helpful. That's one of the greatest ways you can support the channel. Like the video also, that's one as like another way you can support the channel. And leave a comment in the comment section, whether a good comment or a bad comment. They're all helpful, okay, to the channel. And also, if you want to help me further, you can buy me coffee. The link's gonna be in the description of the video. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Keep safe.